Hey everyone, welcome back to Noah's Saltwater Aquatics. Today we're starting a new series called The Deep Dive. Basically, what this is going to be about is just me sitting down, talking about basically my experiences with a specific species, type of fish, invertebrate, whatever it is. But like I mentioned in the previous episode, basically the introduction to the channel, today we're going to be talking about the Snowflake Moray eel and kind of going through my experiences, what the fish shop that I purchased them at told me, and stuff like that. So for starters, it's an eel. It's pretty cool. But yeah, so little backstory, and we're referring to Danger Noodle. But little backstory. Um, Before I added him in, keyword before I added him in, I had, what was it, two clownfish, a purple firefish, watchman goby, um, cleaner shrimp or skunk shrimp, whatever. Um, I think in some type of like wrasse. He was fairly small. So went to the pet store, or sorry, fish store. Was looking about, and the shop owner basically mentioned that he had a eel, and of course, me being me, I'm like, oh, like I gotta see this thing. Once I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, I could take that. Like I want this. I asked him, I'm like, I have enlisted all the fish in my tank, and he was like, oh yeah, no, it'll be fine. Just make sure you feed him every day, and that'll be that. I'm like, all right, cool. So I purchased him, and then actually Frank, which is a Valentini puffer or puffer fish. So brought him home, got him in the tank, whatever. He went to the rocks and did his thing. Um, Fast forward a little bit. So I actually was having trouble feeding him. Apparently, that's a somewhat common thing with eels. They could kind of refuse food or like specific kind of food, whatever. So I tried a bunch of different things. So one of the things I got from the store was a like frozen seafood melody bag. It had squid, or no, maybe not squid, but octopus, shrimp, and some clams and whatever. So tried that. No luck, didn't eat. So I went onto a forum, basically, hey, I got this eel. It's not eating. They recommended some garlic something that you put on the top, and it's supposed to help them eat it. Also didn't work. So I'm almost probably, I think, about a weekend, and finally got him to eat. So I was feeding him every day. He was eating, great, cool, fine and dandy. And flashback to what the store owner said was, oh yeah, he's good with fish as long as you keep him fed, he's good. So fast forward, I came back to my tank, just checking it out, looking at it like you do with fish tanks, and I was kind of like, that's interesting. I haven't seen my clownfish in a little bit. And then as I started looking, I was like, wait a second, I haven't seen my rest of the fish. So yeah, so that's the first point. Long story, but first point I wanted to make, where yeah, he ate all my fish, so good for that. So that's one thing to note. And as I was doing research, it kind of goes from they're good with other fish, and then they're not good with fish. So it just depends on the personality and the temperament of the eel, I guess. But generally, a rule of thumb for them is basically anything that they can fit in their mouth, they will eat, which happened to me. So, if you are watching this video for you want a moray eel, that's a big factor. Is kind of dependent on what you have in the tank. If you have any smaller fish, you may be okay, but my personal experiences, I would not, absolutely would not recommend it. Wouldn't do it. Honestly, if I went back in time, I probably wouldn't have gotten them if I knew that. Second thing is too that they get fairly large, not as big as some other types of eel. But I think from what I've seen is they get about 2 feet or so. So keep that in mind too for when you get your fish tank, because a 2 foot eel and a 3 foot tank doesn't really add up with math. For myself personally, I'm planning on, I'm putting him into 20 right now, or once I move and all that stuff happens. But I'm also planning on upgrading, bigger tank, yada yada yada, whatever. So yeah, he so he's cool and all. But would I recommend it? It depends honestly, because if you're keeping, for what I've seen, any bigger like tang, angelfish, even to a degree like lionfish and stuff like that would be acceptable with him or with the eel, just because most of those fish get big, which even when they're fully grown or close to full grown, they shouldn't be able to fit them in his mouth. But anything, if you have like clownfish, any type of shrimp, hermit crab, anything like that, he's gonna smoke them, or at least in my experiences. So I wouldn't do it, which is kind of why I wanted to start the series. Is kind of just making an honest take, and my honest take is take. I thought it was saying tank. Anyways, I depending on what tank you have, I think it really should change your opinion or your if you're gonna buy it or not. That's my personal opinion, but um, I don't know. He's cool. He's cool. It's kind of a cool flex. It's like, yeah, I have an eel. They're like, you have a what? Eel, like the big old eels. But for sure, I think if you have the right tank setup, I think it'd be pretty good to actually get one minus your stocking. Another thing to know about them is they are very slippery because they're eels, so they can get out of your tank. So you do need a tight fitting lid. I've really never experienced any issues with him. I do well. Before I say what I'm gonna say, I do have a tight fitting lid. The only cutout is on the top where my intake and my external or outtake tube goes for my filter. But I personally haven't seen any issues with him trying to get out or anything like that. 90% of his time spends in rocks. I believe they may be nocturnal, don't quote me, but I have seen him. I generally see him out more, not fully, but I have seen him like further out in the rocks in night instead of the daytime. So that's something to note. So if you are having trouble feeding, one thing I've seen is actually maybe a good idea to try feeding him like kind of when it gets later in the day, towards night, you may have a better chance of, feeding them. Um, I have noticed my eel can be kind of picky. Um, I tried doing shrimp and stuff like that. He didn't seem to eat it very much, or well, he'd eat it, then he kind of stopped. So I tried. I think it was octopus or squid or one of those two. I don't know. They have tentacles. Both of them have tentacles. Whatever. So that I've noticed. I think he ate. So in my personal experience, to kind of sum things up and wrap stuff together, um, they can be picky eaters, especially when you get them. They kill all your fish, depending on what fish you have, and not as big. So with the lid, it's back and forth because if you have like jumpers, fish that like jumping and stuff like that, you can need a lid anyways. So, if generally I've always personally had lids on my fish tanks. I normally never keep the top open just for water evaporation, and I just don't feel like hanging my light properly and just rest it on the lid, which probably isn't a good practice, but I do it. Whatever. So yeah, I mean that's kind of to sum it up. So I would say, if you're looking at getting an eel, or specifically snowflake eel, because that's really the only eel I have experience keeping and that I currently keep, I would say more so do it with caution. As far as coral and that kind of sort, I can't necessarily speak on, because the only time I've had coral is when I had my small tank, not in this big tank. So I can't really say if he would, you know, I doubt they would chew it because why would they? But I feel like just basing on how he acts is depending on where you have the coral, he may bump into it or something. But I can't say that 100% yes or no because I honestly have never done it. Um, but I'm no expert on this, that's why I kind of created the channel because I'm a newbie. But what I've seen is generally pretty much everyone does it, but you need some sort of hiding spot for them, whether it be a rock, cave, like in the 40-gallon tank I had or have. I had a little rock work type of thing, and then I also had it was actually like a lizard hide or something like that, where it was like a big, it was kind of like a corner piece, and it had like an opening in the middle. He used that a couple times. So that's one thing you also want to know is like, and when you build your rock, you want to make sure you kind of have a little cave form, so you can kind of go in it and poke his head out. So you want to kind of build it around that, so he's able to stick his head out of things and stuff like that. Ever since I redid my rock work and the 40-gallon after I cleaned it, there's a lot more holes for him to stick his head out of, and he actually changes where he sticks his head out of quite a lot. So that's also of note. But yeah, basically for I guess feeding, I typically offer him food every day. If he doesn't end up eating it, I'll typically take it out of the tank just to make sure I don't, screw up my ammonia and all the stuff that goes with that. But I normally offer food every day, and kind of just keep an eye on him. I've been looking at, I don't know what the correct grammar or English to say, but the girth of it, where like how wide he is. I don't know. Maybe there's a different word for that. That's the only word I know. But I've noticed as he's gotten bigger, he also gets thicker too. That's just my personal thing. But yeah, I got him when he was probably give or take that big, and I would say he's probably close to a foot now, if not a foot. So he's definitely growing and stuff like that. The main kind of stressor with him, other than him murking all my fish, is kind of him with the puffer. Um, Frank is very dumb and he likes stealing the eel's food and stuff like that. So I get a little nervous with him being in such close proximity with the eel. Um, and also the whole eating situation with him. He's not the best eater. He does eat sometimes. A lot of the times I'll come home and the food is gone. So I'm assuming he ate it because Frank, there's no way he could have eaten like a big piece of shrimp or whatever. But yeah, so overall, to wrap all the things up, be careful with the type of fish you put them with. Be very mindful of what you have in your tank before you add an eel, because they may do fine for a little bit, like mine did, but after a while you start to notice fish disappearing, and then you have a whole nother problem on your hands. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Second thing is just tight fitting lid. Third thing is they could be a little so-so on eating. I think that pretty much wraps it up. So I hope everyone enjoyed the first episode of the deep dive. I'll be doing more episodes in the future with just the different species of fish or the types of fish I've owned in the past and do have some experience in keeping. Mainly keeping it to saltwater because I haven't done freshwater in a long, long time. So stay tuned for the next one. The next one will more than likely be on the Valentini puffer. Also, keep an eye out for Monday or Tuesday. I'll be going to the fish store or two fish stores, and Petco will be picking up a couple supplies, and you may see like some YouTube short or something of one of the items I'm getting. So keep an eye for that. I'll be probably editing that and trying to get it either out Monday or Tuesday. But anyways, I hope everyone enjoyed this video. If you want to, subscribe or don't. Either way, thanks for watching. And I will see you guys in the next episode.